Welcome to Beyond the Policy, the podcast where we go past the fine print and into the real stories that shape how we live, work, and protect what matters most. I'm Matt Carafa, risk advisor, consultant, and founder of the Be Better Foundation, where each week sit down with clients, colleagues, and industry voices to talk about business, life, and the passions that drive each of us and the areas we can all work on to truly be better. This is Beyond the Policy. Welcome to Beyond the Policy. Excited to have our conversation today with Dr. Andrea Mata here in Bowling Green. So again, thanks for taking the time to join and have the conversation. Really looking forward to it. Heard you speak a few times, had some conversations, so I really think there'll be some good takeaways for people to listen to. So as we get started, tell us who you are and how you maybe got to where you are today.
Yeah, so my name's Dr. Andrea Mata. I have a PhD in clinical child psychology. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, very gang-infested territory. So I remember my senior year of high school, someone that I had previously done judo with had shot and killed a person a block from my house because he was wearing the color baby blue. And in our territory, not our territory because I wasn't part of the gang, but in the territory that I lived in, it was Latin Kings, and you were supposed to wear black and gold. And so he was wearing baby blue in the territory, and so he got shot and killed. And it was this whole thing.
That was part of your childhood?
Yeah, because that was senior year of high school. And the person who had given the gun to that guy, lived down the block. He was a year older than me. I went to school with him, because he was just a year older than me, every single year.
Yeah.
Would ride the bus with him to school, have conversations with him, knew him, all of the things. And I attribute, some people are well, how did you not join the gang? If you're surrounded by all of these people who had joined the gang. And I was sports. That was my saving grace because I was playing travel softball ever since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
I was playing volleyball ever since I was in 7th grade, and I was playing basketball since I was fourth grade. And so if you're doing all those sports, you don't have time to join a gang, and you just know that there's so much better things out there to do than to join a gang.
Yeah.
And my close-knit family. I think that's the other big thing is we had a very close-knit, sarcastic family that was hit by tragedy when I was 11 years old. My brother, so I was the youngest of 4 kids.
Okay.
So I had 3 older brothers, and the youngest of the boys was murdered by someone who he considered a friend. Not involved in the gang territory. This was a whole nother shebang. And so when you fast forward 2 years and we're in court proceedings and the guy was convicted of first degree murder and aggravated assault or something like that, robbery, I think, robbery. The judge, it was time for sentencing. And so the judge looked at my parents and my 2 older brothers were not allowed in the courtroom because they did not trust themselves not to inflict harm onto the person who murdered their younger brother. And so it was just my parents and I at the age of 13. And the judge looked at my parents and I and was like, hey, we're not sentencing this man to death, not because of moral or professional objections against the death penalty, but because he had a rough childhood. Yeah. And so that motivated me, fueled me to become a clinical child psychologist who specializes in the treatment of antisocial and aggressive behavior so that future kids who come from rough childhoods don't go on to be murderers all because they had a rough childhood.
And that was going to be one of my leading questions, of how you got into or what happened from an early age that put you on this path to where you are now. And I'd say that's probably the most real impact of situation happened to you directly, and then what you're going to do to fix it, and professionally so. Yeah. And then you hit on the second thing of, parenting, sports, both kind of in your professional world, as important of being around sports your whole life and how it can improve trajectory of children. So we'll talk about that for sure. But before we get to that point, kind of in between, so obviously you had that, you knew what you wanted to do. How did you get from south side of Chicago to Bowling Green today?
So then I went to Valparaiso University in Valparaiso, Indiana. So it's about an hour and a half east of Chicago. I started off there playing softball.
Okay.
Was super excited because like all I wanted to do was play like Division I softball, and I had my opportunity. I was a walk-on, and then I laugh because fall ball was awful.
First experience, school, fall ball.
Yeah, so like we start
first-
school and then it's like right into fall ball.
Okay.
And the head coach and the assistant coach in like the 6 weeks of fall ball never picked up a bat or a ball. Exactly, never picked up a bat or a ball, and just made their graduate assistant do all of the bats, all of the balls, all of that stuff. And him and his assistant just sat behind the backstop and like just verbally criticized us the whole practice. And so like after fall ball, after traveling to like 2 tournaments, and like I remember one of the senior, her name was Corey. Her dad like looked at Corey because I like got to bat like 1 time in the 2 tournaments as a freshman, and like her dad looked at Corey and was like, she's a diamond in the rough and he has no idea. But it was just so toxic, and I hate that word toxic, but it was totally toxic. To be a coach and to never coach for 6 weeks. And so then I was like, I have to choose between another toxic environment, like one that I grew up with in high school, like my high school softball team was toxic, and do another 4 years of this, or focus in on my career. And so I'm going to focus in on my career. So I ended up quitting after fall ball. And then it turned out that all the freshmen that came in with me, there was 4 of us together, we all ended up quitting. By the time that year ended, we all quit.
Yeah.
And then it was crazy because in spring semester, the team actually organized a walkout on the coaches. And so then they actually got a brand new coach the following year. And I remember people being like, are you coming back? And I'm like, it's too far gone.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my academics now.
Yeah.
So
undergrad there, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then directly to, or did you have some professional?
Directly to Kent State
Okay.
for PhD work. I remember that was a chaotic experience because like people were like, I remember I did an interview, so I had 2 interviews, and I did an interview at University of Vermont. And I remember them being like, you do realize like the percentage of people that go straight from like undergrad to like graduate work in clinical psych PhD is like really, really low. And I was like, okay. And they're like, and you realize it's like the second hardest program to get into in the nation. Like it's harder to get into clinical psych PhD than like med school or law school. The only program that's harder is vet school because there's so few vet programs. And the reason for that is because if you can get into a clinical PhD program, they pay your way. They pay all of your tuition, and then they give you a stipend. It's not like you're not living the high life, but they give you a stipend to live off of every year.
Got it.
The whole time that you're in grad school.
And at that point, when it's clinical psych PhD, I'm assuming there's a wide array of what you could do out in the workforce. How did you narrow it down to what you would categorize it today?
So I remember when I was going out for interviewing, so like something that's different about clinical psych PhD is like grad programs, like you have to work with a specific mentor. Like a faculty member is your person.
Okay.
And like if you don't get matched like perfectly with that person, well then you don't get admitted. And so I remember when I was going out there to interview, I was driving out there from Valpo to Kent, so it's about a 4.5, 5 hour drive. And on the way there, I was just kind of like thinking about things. And I was like, okay, like what kind of research would I want to do? Because you have to do research. And I was like, and it goes back to my childhood about sports and gang-infested territories. I was like, what is it about me that made me get out of a gang-infested territory? Besides my, the situation with my brother, what is it about? And I was like, sports. And so I wanted to study how sports and other extracurricular activities impacts behavioral problems. And so I remember I met with Manfred, who was my mentor. It was like the interview, the interview. And he looks at me out of the blue and he's like, okay, you have unlimited amount of money. You can research anything that you want. What are you researching? And I told him, and he's like, I've been wanting to research that. I just haven't had a grad student. I was like, yes.
It's aligning. There
exactly.
It was created.
And then like the next week, like a few days later, he emailed me and was like, hey, I have this data set with all of this data that you need. that you could use if you came here. And then I was accepted probably a month later.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the sports piece out, so we can get into a little bit of your research, but similar, sports was a huge part of me growing up, and I don't think I would be where I am today without it. When you take the actual athletic ability out of it, discipline, commitment, accountability, all the words that you learn from, in my case, mostly team sports, very, golf individual, but I still think there's a team dynamic to that. So with some of your research or, from your journey from then to now, if we think of takeaways of helping people be better, whether you're an athlete yourself or a parent of kids getting into that, kind of where would you start, or what have you found most interesting along your journey as it relates to sports in the youth?
So I think the big thing is I remember, so when I was in grad school, we got it was like $1 million grant from the CDC to study suicide prevention. And so I was like, and we got it. And Manfred's like, well, now you get to do research. I'm like, I don't want to do research on suicide. It seems so depressing. And he's like, but you have to. And I was like, oh, fine. I was like, well, if we're going to study suicide, then I'm going to put it with sports and I'm going to put it with other extracurricular activities and see what impact sports has on it. And it was interesting because it was showed if you're involved in if a youth is involved in extracurricular activities, it actually reduces their suicide risk because they have that sense of belongingness. And so even now, being a high school football coach and having worked with small groups of guys, whenever I hear a football player, died by suicide, I immediately will pick up my phone and reach out to them and be like, hey, how is everyone doing? Just checking in, making sure.
You'll do that today.
Huh?
You'll do that today.
Oh, yeah. If I heard a football player died by suicide today, I will pick up the phone and I will text all of the ones that I'm really, really close to this day, have a great relationship with, and be like, hey, just checking in, making sure you all are okay. Just because I think with football, it's not talked a lot about. And even though we hear a lot of, football programs are, trying to support more mental health, it's not all what it's cracked up to be. A lot of it is lip service. And those athletes are not actually getting services that they would need.
So with that, I would say a couple things. You are a football coach. Your experience professionally growing up around sports, I think, has a unique perspective that you bring to that. So, high school kids today, everyone can have their own version with Gen Z, whatever lump they get into. I always like to think there's positives in sports still making the same impact they did when, we did them. But what has changed in the athlete today? Mental health, I think, is the biggest buzzword today. Hey, how's your mental health?
Yeah. Great.
Important. But from an athletic standpoint specifically, what have you found that's different or more challenging today?
I think the big thing, I think something that's staying the same, at least with football players, is they need help with their mental health, but they're not always willing to seek it out.
Like someone to say, I need help with my mental health is probably never a phrase they're going to say.
Correct.
They're going to give other indications, other questions they're going to ask, leading someone in to have that conversation.
You really have to lead in with the relationship piece. And so I remember one of my previous athletes, they were having panic attacks on the regular. And I was like, okay. And so I went to him specifically and I was like, what is going on? And he's like, nothing, I'm good. And I was like, no, what I do for an actual living, not, my football coach salary, which is not very high, is laughable. So tell me what is going on and we can figure this out. And so, because I was noticing behaviors in the locker room and those kind of things. And I was like, okay, well, let's figure this out. And so we had a conversation and I was like, okay, and a deep conversation. Okay, well, this is probably what's causing your panic attacks. We need to figure out that piece so that the panic attacks go away. But I think it's building into that relationship piece. Like, if you don't have a relationship with them, they're not going to open up to you.
Yeah, and I think, we've chatted a little bit about the mentorship of the Be Better Foundation and getting connected with them at the young, because you don't know, it's not like a playbook. You say if you do these 20 things, they're on the path to success.
Correct.
Everything's relationship, time, awareness, being able to do that. And I think with so many things, and I think technology, phones, it wasn't a huge thing of, you had text, hit, to get B, the old school way, which I think is way different than everything's just instant. Comparable, even just this week with local sports teams, like 5 kids quit. Season, it's not even August 1st yet, and you got kids. I don't know if they're not mentally tough. They just weren't raised with accountability. Like, no, you're committed. Your team needs you. Yeah. I don't know. I just find that strange. You hear that more and more. Than okay, yeah, you didn't like it, but I'm gonna go do it. All my friends are there. I like to go.
Right.
But
I think that's the big thing. It's like, do you like it? What is the coach like? Like, we've already kind of talked about it, but like the coach, and I think they realize how beneficial, how impactful that they can be, but like, if you can be, if you can be a Be Better coach, I think that goes a long way. Like, lots of people are like, wait, so you mean to tell me like the high school that you work with, they have you on staff? And I was like, yes. And they're like, but we want you on staff. How do we get you on our staff? And I was like, well, it all starts with the head coach. Like, I don't know if I would ever do what I do with any other head coach other than the head coach I have.
Yeah. Because
he gets it.
You can't just say, I want that with no commitment. You're going to fix it.
Yeah.
Come fix it.
Right.
It's got to be everyone working the same direction.
He understands it. And there's other people like don't understand, like, why is there a clinical child psychologist on the sidelines with our young men during games? And then like they start to, then he goes to bat for me. And then they see it because like obviously they can see what's going on because they're behind us. And then they get it.
Yeah.
And the parents are like, oh, okay.
So good lead into, the parenting side of it. So let's take it on the athletic side of dealing with parents of high school athletes. I think my oldest is 8 years old, and we're not even to the level of, full travel sports and whatever. But I think the number one thing I do when I observe high school sports is I have a list of things I will never do as a parent.
Yeah.
One being an official, I will never yell at an official.
Right.
Just because it doesn't matter right or wrong or change it. Is it the example you set? Because I've already had to yell at my 8-year-old, throwing his hands up in camp of, that's a bad call. Like that, my blood is boiling just thinking about it. So you dealing with parents in your professional job, then let's start about it at the sports level too. Yeah. What do you see that's a huge detriment to kids that parents are doing? And then what would you say, if you could do one thing today to improve your child's success in athletics, what would it be?
I think, so I don't know how, because it was all around the time that like we were on vacation with like local baseball, where like the commissioner, I don't know if you heard about this, but like the commissioner, like
parents
he resigned.
Insane. Yeah.
Because the parents were like, and there was like more stuff because it was actually my son's team where like the father, one of our fathers, like got banned from going to our games because he was like verbally assaulting one of the coaches so much that they had to like the third base coach and the first base coach had to like switch sides because he was harassing the third base coach and he was harassing the ref. And so he was literally banned from games where the commissioner then had to like come out the next game and had to be like, hey, parents, like,
act right.
Act right, those kind of things. And so when I go, if you ever see me at a baseball game, it's usually I have a cap on and it is so low, covering my eyes and most of my face because I can't hide my face like when I'm out because parents just say things that don't need to be said. And what I will say is like, you have one job as a parent. One job as a youth parent coach, and that is to cheer your child on. You don't need to coach them. They have coaches. If you don't like...
But what if they're doing it the wrong way?
well, then next year you be a coach. So I had this issue because my husband was one of the 3 coaches, and like being a softball player, like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, dude. And my husband looked at me. He's like, if you don't like how we coached, he's like, then you coach next year. And I was like, fine, maybe I will coach next year.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. Where do I sign up
Yeah.
to be? Whatever. But yeah, so like if you don't like what the coaches are doing, well then coach next year, or coach your child at home, but don't coach them like on.
Coach them how to be coachable.
Yeah.
I think is a lost thing because you might not agree with it, but he's the coach, and you're right, because that's one thing I say 100%. I don't have the time to do that, so I will have to do the good and the bad because I cannot go do it. So be very careful what you say. But I am in control when he's at home or when we do one-on-one stuff. Coach him up that way.
And like one thing I would do is because like my son was like refusing to swing the bat because he's highly perfectionistic, and so I was like, hey, so like when his teammates were batting, I would pull him behind the backstop and I would help him watch balls coming in to see, hey, this is too high, this is too inside, this is too outside, like that's too low, this is perfect, like tee off on that. And then when he would go up to bat, like I'd be encouraging. And I remember the one time he had a 3-2 count on him. And I was like, bud, he is throwing strikes. Swing the bat. And he swung the bat on the next one. He got a hit and he's like, yes! And I was like, okay, I shouldn't be coaching, but like.
But it's in the right way. You're not saying, hey, don't listen to your coach, do it this way.
Right.
That's just like a one-on-one thing to help be successful. It's not.
Yeah.
And I think that's again, we're not even to the level, but you can already start to see it at coach pitch. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Last I checked, this will never show up on a resume, or no one cares.
No, it will not. And the chances of your child being recruited for a D1's like full ride scholarship is super, super low.
You don't say. So again, with the parents on how they interact, because you're not going to fix everyone, and usually my technique is avoidance. Just don't be that and stay away from it. Don't get involved. But if someone had the wherewithal to say, man, I need to be a better parent at sport, like what helps them? You talked about a few, coach them at home, be supportive and cheer on your kid.
Yeah.
I'd say anything else that you see, in your coaching experience that would be beneficial.
And don't trash talk the other team.
Crazy.
They're little kids. Like, and it's not like the World Series or anything like that. Like, I can share horror stories of like parents just being completely inappropriate to the other team. But like, it's
I think the internet has a great, I don't know what's in my algorithm of seeing stuff of, brawls on baseball fields and wild. But again, that goes on my list of things to never do, and also just do the things you control. Be supportive, encourage your kid.
And I think like the other big thing is like stick to the fundamentals. Like all of this, there's so much I noticed it this summer, like all of the unnecessary stuff, like walk-up music for like 8 and 9-year-olds. Like, why do we have walk-up music? Why is this a thing? And why are kids like, my kids are doing upward football this year. And I saw he's probably like 5, and he's coming with like to the
Armbands,
evaluations
wristbands,
with
elbows.
like receiver gloves. And I was like, it's an evaluation. Why?
My son asked for him. I said, if your arm's not big enough to hold it up, you can't get it yet. So
right.
At least he's working on that.
Yeah. But I was like, this is unnecessary. Like the black, like no, it's so unnecessary.
Yeah. Any pet peeves that stick out of like that your hat gets a little lower when you see of like, oh my gosh.
Just when parents, they think they know what, and I had this mistake too. I will own it. When parents think that they know the rules or like strategy, but they have no idea like what they are doing, or they don't know the rules. And I even had that mistake, and I was like, why are they not sending him? And they're like, you can't steal unless the ball goes past. And I was like, oh, that's weird.
Rule I didn't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know, but okay. But I have a friend, because I had posted on LinkedIn about it, and I have a friend, he was like, I tried to coach my kids on gymnastics techniques, and I've never done gymnastics in my life.
Yeah, you get yourself and like do it this way, because my wife will call me out. when it's gymnastics, we had that brief thing of like body, core, strength. Why don't you do this? That's not how they teach you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe I should be quiet on that.
I'll be quiet now.
Yeah. So, okay, let's go into your, again, when we first chatted, you spoke about your book, your TEDx talk on, the parenting, Gen Z, all of that. When we get into, I think I've read a little bit of this book, and it gives very practical examples, very practical advice of, here's a scenario or a situation you might find yourself in. Here's maybe what to do different. So again, your day-to-day, just take us a little bit about how the book came about. And again, I think it's great, easy to read, and the whole theory of the number 2 of men take longer. I thought that was interesting. So just give us a little lead into the book.
Yeah, so I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know what I wanted to write a book on. So I wanted, was it family? Is it parenting? Is it marriage? Is it youth sports, mental health? My husband was like, pun intended, my husband was like, just brain dump and then see what comes out. And so I started just writing and writing and writing and writing. And finally I flashed back to when I was still a college professor. And I had a co-teacher, he was the head swimming and diving coach. And we were teaching sports psych. And he was getting really frustrated because students don't read textbooks. And I was like, fine, students don't read textbooks. So finally we moved to like this reader, and he got up in the middle of like syllabus day, and he was like, you can read this book in the time that it takes you to poop. And so I was like, parents don't have time. They don't have time for all the research. They don't have time for all the developmental theories and all of the things. They just want things to work, and they have limited time.
Tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do, exactly. And so, and they don't even care why it works. They just want to know what to do. So I was like, all right, I'm going to write a parenting book in the time that it takes, and you can read each chapter in the time that it takes you to poop. So you should be able to read them in under 5 minutes, because I did research on it, and you're not supposed to be on the toilet for longer than 5 minutes. Like, it's unhealthy for you. Like, you're supposed to actually poop in less than a minute, but I can't write a chapter in less than a minute. So 5 minutes it is. And the joke is that men take 45 minutes typically in the bathroom, and whereas women, so it's like it's a mom poop, not a dad poop, because dads take way longer. Unless you're these 2 women in Lima, Ohio, who take longer than their husbands. And I was like, you need to teach the rest of us our ways. But yeah, so it's all from either my raising kids, clients raising kids. Obviously, I've changed names, those kind of things. But like practical parenting tips in the time it takes you to poop.
Yeah. So 2 things with kind of the Gen Z kind of mindset, the gentle parenting, which I'm sure you have comments on that. And then kind of the philosophy of high expectations with high support. What's the difference in those 2? And then I'm sure there's research based in both, kind of why, not one better than the other, but just your evidence of those 2 ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, so over the last like 15, 20 years, gentle parenting has gone a big push. And it's been like the parenting style that has been promoted by lots of like influencers on social media who don't actually know what they're talking about.
Might not even have kids.
They might not even have kids, but it's like, oh, you should do this thing. And I'm like, that's dumb. I remember this is not about gentle parenting, but I remember there was this one guy, I won't say his name, but he was like, you should practice the 777 rule. And I was like, what is the 777 rule? And he's like, you should take a date every 7 days with your spouse. And I was like, okay. He's like, every 7 weeks you should do an overnight with your spouse without the kids. And every 7 months you should take a 1-week vacation with your spouse. And I was like, who's paying for this? How much time off do you all have? And who's watching the kids? Like, this is impractical. But anyway, and he got so much like, yeah, that's a great idea. And
follow, like, sign me up. But no practical advice on.
No practical advice. And so I was like, how about we just do like a date night every month? Can we do that and it not cost like $35 an hour for a babysitter? Like, because I had someone post the other day, they're like, oh, yeah, we spend $110 on babysitting to go watch a movie. And I was like, whew, that's a hefty That's a hefty date.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay then. But yeah, so I think, so gentle parenting, it became super popular but it doesn't work. And what it's doing is it's causing our youth to be less adaptable, less resilient, because they focus in on their feelings. So now you have all these kids and Gen Zs walking around and being like, well, I feel this. And people are like, we don't care. And they're like, but what do you mean we don't care? Like, our parents cared. And I'm like, yeah, your parents care about your feelings, but like no one else cares.
Your boss doesn't.
Yeah, your boss doesn't care about your feelings. The other thing is like the gentle parenting will tell them like, oh, you should treat your child as if they're the same level as you. Like they're your partner and they have power and decisions. And the same thing, like, so they go into the work, like Gen Z will go into the workplace and be like, oh, I should be promoted tomorrow. And the bosses are like, you don't know what you're doing. And they're like, but yeah, I should still be promoted because like I showed up today. Yeah, I'm equal to you. And then the other thing is they think that you should get rid of rewards and punishments, which is not a great idea either, because what's happening is like, then there's just praise. And then it's like, if you give them any kind of feedback, like I think it's like 38% of Gen Zs have like taken a mental health day the day after they got feedback.
Yes. That is wild to me of coming from, and I think hopefully the trend is going back to, I don't know what the norm is because I don't know what we called it, just called it parenting.
Right.
Like when my parents, I don't know if they said we're going to do this technique. Now the whole gentle, like that's in its own thing, but of just there's expectations, there's results, there's consequences. Like you want to be successful, but I think false sense of reality doesn't do anyone any good.
No. That's why I promote authoritative parenting. So like high expectations within the context of the warm and fuzzies. That's what I talk about all in the book. And it leads to the best developmental outcomes, which I think is just nuts because like what happened was Gen X and millennials were parented mostly by like militant parents, like my way or the highway. I don't care about your feelings. If you're crying, I'll give you a reason to cry. Those kind of things, right? And so they were like, we're never to parent ever like that. So they went the complete opposite, and that's where we have gentle parenting. And now I'm like, can we just go to this middle ground that's like beautiful and it works and it raises like adaptable youth? Like that's where we want to be. But now it's actually getting worse sometimes because now people are like, oh, well, we should have like child-led parenting. And I was like, no, don't do that. And they're like, well, we should have attachment parenting. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Just go over here. Just stick with authoritative parenting.
Right.
And that works. Like do that.
I forget what the heading of the chapter was, but essentially someone came to you for help. I think they did all the things right at school, but at home they just couldn't get anything done, and you gave her some strategies on what to do, and like you said all the things, but it wasn't working, and you're like, well, did you do them with her? And she's like, no, I did it from the couch.
Yeah.
Of like, you can say all the right things, but it's not just, again, it's not a checklist that, you just mark them off the list and it's magically going to happen.
Right.
Yes, the words might work, but my biggest takeaway from that is do what you say.
Yeah.
And do it with them and, have them see firsthand, oh, mom and dad are doing the same thing they're asking me to do. Granted, it might be different scales because all is not equal.
Right. No, not at all.
But that was just one example that stuck with, of again, 5 minutes, you had a takeaway. I practiced it that night.
Yeah.
Like, don't
Be
just
in it
do
with
that.
them.
I'm going to go brush my teeth with you.
Yeah.
Like
we're all brushing our teeth together. Yeah, it's like, because parenting is I call it a front-loaded activity, meaning like you have to put in all of the effort and the work in the beginning, and then you will reap, or you will reap what you sowed. But you have to do everything at the beginning. And people are like, your kids are so well behaved. You're so lucky. And I'm like, I'm not. And I've caught myself saying it. And my husband will look at me. He's like, we are not lucky. Our children are well behaved because we have put in the work for them to be well behaved.
Yeah, same thing when we talked about sports of like what I'm not going to do as a parent, or when you go out. One thing, Alyssa and I always talk about, like, never going to have iPads at the table.
No.
Again, very, very, I think maybe twice in our life of crying, like just avoid a complete meltdown.
Yeah.
Here's your phone till we order, whatever. But you just go, one of the most frustrating or sad things, I think, you go, family of 4, all 4 devices, headphones on even.
Yeah.
Like, and then the minute they say I'm hungry, then they're in trouble. I gave you your iPad, be quiet.
Yeah. What's the whole point of going, like,
why, back to, I mean, that's $100 wasted time. No one's enjoying themselves, and you're doing everything you can do at home.
Right. And like we went to Texas Roadhouse on our way to the lake last week on Friday, and now they have like, some restaurants will have like the little tablets there with like games and stuff like that. And we will literally just be like, and we'll put it to the back of the table, and we'll like turn it around, and we're like, no, we don't, but they're like, but there's games. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, we're going to play. And like we pull out, I always have a deck of cards in my purse. And so they're like, can we play Go Fish? I'm like, absolutely. We'll play Go Fish. We'll play Solitaire. We'll play Pedico. It's a Mexican game that's similar to like Old Maid. But yeah, we'll play all of those games.
Again, not ground bake. Doesn't cost a lot of money.
No.
Not a lot. You don't need to be, have a doctorate.
No.
Simple things to do.
Have a deck of cards in your hand or in your purse.
Right.
Take it wherever you want.
Yeah. So that was going to be my, that's one of them right there of what could a parent start doing today if they're struggling with maybe not gentle parenting, but knowing, teach their kids accountability, responsibility, some of those things. What would be one or two things? Easy, deck of cards, easy takeaway. Anything else that, a parent could start doing tomorrow that could improve their parenting relationship with their child?
Go for walks. Like, one of my favorite things is like family walks, where we will all just go walking. And this became like a bigger thing around COVID. And there's actually research to support like the benefits, because it's like, okay, everyone's getting movement, which helps with mental health, it helps with body, it helps with physical, like all of the things. But then it also allows for like the conversations that you can have when you are walking. And obviously there's no phones, no ear pods, there's no, like you're taking in the scenery, you're making it adventurous, you're talking about life. So that's another thing. And then another one that I would encourage parents to do when you are putting your kids to bed, ask them, what's the last good thing that could happen today? Because there's a Finnish study that shows that it reduces anxiety in adolescence if you just ask your child this question when you put them to bed at night.
What's the last
good thing that happened today? Because then they go to sleep thinking about good things and then they're rerunning through something good that happened to them today, and they're not like becoming anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow, and they're not like focusing in on the bad stuff that happened that day. They're focusing on the good stuff.
Yeah. And I think it was, I don't know which technique, but through the summer, wife being an educator, kid has to read books.
Yeah.
And I'm bad because I start like 9 books, never finish one. And so my son's calling me out on it.
Yeah.
Dad, why do I have to read? You haven't finished one. Noted.
Yeah.
So I finished a few. He had to do his, and Mom's rule, our rule, you do a book report after you finish.
Yeah.
So had the prompts, had it all laid out last night. We got back from a long weekend of camping, and he's sitting there and he's taking deep breaths. Like, you see, he was getting frustrated.
Yeah.
And tears. Then he tried to hold him back, like, I should be able to do this, and he just came over. I'm like, hey, what's wrong? It's just really hard. Again, typically my mind is, just do it.
Yeah.
You read the book, answer the questions.
Yeah.
But again, that's not what they needed. All right, let's work through it. We'll help you.
Yeah.
Got through it. At the end of the day, it's great. It was positive, because that could have easily been months ago. I would have gone to bed frustrated. He would have gone to bed frustrated.
Yeah.
But again, just little things that they are children. They do think differently.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That was, again, my takeaway of just try different things, see what works. Because another thing I took away from your book is these aren't going to work for everyone.
No.
But try them.
Yeah.
If they work, great. Tweak it.
Yeah. Make it work for you. And if it
that's what I
doesn't
loved
work,
about
then go do something else in the book.
Yeah, there's 45 other bathroom breaks you can
Yeah,
pick up
exactly.
on. So good. As we kind of wrap up and get in towards the end, anything else is from the parenting side, or, again, I always like to leave people with takeaways, and those were great ones, I think, but anything else as we kind of wrap that portion up?
I mean, I think the biggest one that I always talk about, and it's in the book, I call it like your ratios off. So because it's towards the end of the book, and it talks about like maintaining a 5-to-1 positive to negative interactions with your kids. So every one negative interaction that you have with your kid, and this goes for spouses too, you have to have 5 positive interactions with them to get your relationship back on good terms.
Love it. If you have, and again, it's not realistic to say you're never going to have a negative experience. It's going to happen. Focus on the positives.
You have to repair it.
Yeah. So again, when I like to wrap up and talk, a lot of great takeaways, love the conversation. And again, as we go into the whole be better that we've talked about, and what could people do and take away, you mentioned two things. How could we all be better? And then mentorship as a whole.
Yeah.
You've mentioned your mentor professionally, but one other question I always like to ask, who in your life do you think helped you get to where you are today? And without that one person, how do you think your life would have been different?
I always go back to my dad. So my dad, he would always, Mexican immigrated here when he was 22, and he would always tell us, like, nothing will ever be handed to you in this world, and you have to work for everything.
Yeah, and I think that, I have a daily mantra of, be better, suck less, and similar one of nothing is ever given to you. Like, I just look for those daily reminders of everyone's going to have a different version, but what keep you going and to do what you do. Busy, you have your own kids. Yeah. Football coach. Yeah. Professional practice. We all have things to be busy with, but we choose to what we work for. So, a couple last ones. Any favorite books other than your own, of course, that you would recommend, or that if you had to gift a book to someone, any of that come to the top of the list? Of
the ones I've read recently, Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport.
Okay.
So I love Cal Newport. Like, he wrote Deep Work and Digital Minimalism, and he wrote Slow Productivity. But Digital Minimalism is a good one. I'd recommend it.
Parents, professionals, fits everyone.
It's pretty much like not get off of social media, but like he gives you a process to follow to figure out which technologies are adding value to your life and which ones are sucking.
Yeah, I think as kids and even adults, I fall in that of a productivity, just a time suck. And you look, oh shit, that was 30 minutes. Yeah. I've done nothing. Yeah. So
I could have done all this other stuff.
And the last month, it's been trying to read a book that my son says I haven't finished. So that's been good, but it's been great conversation. Thank you for
Thanks for having me.
The time out. So hope you enjoyed this episode of Beyond the Policy, and look forward to catching you on the next one. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for hanging out with me on Beyond the Policy. If you got something out of today's conversation, pass it along to a friend, client, or colleague who might enjoy it too. You can always connect with me through the show notes or on LinkedIn. And remember, the best coverage always starts with the right conversations. Until next time, be better.